Commander Allison Wright stood at the viewport of the Earth vessel Pathfinder, watching as the massive Arcturian space station grew larger against the backdrop of swirling purple clouds. Her palms were sweaty. This was humanity's first official, diplomatic mission to the heart of the Arcturian Empire, and she felt the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. Quite a sight, isn't it? Dr. Nathan Kelly appeared beside her. The xenobiologist's eyes were wide with wonder. A structure that size would be impossible with our technology. That's why we're here, Allison said, to learn and grow under their guidance. 5 years ago, the Arcturians had appeared in Earth's solar system with ships larger than cities. They offered humanity membership in their empire as a protected species. After centuries of wondering if we were alone in the universe, mankind finally had its answer. Ambassador Gregory Johnson joined them at the viewport, straightening his formal blue uniform. "Remember the mission," he said quietly. "Humility, respect, gratitude. We're newcomers to a civilization that has existed for thousands of years." The Pathfinder shuddered slightly as the Arcturian docking system took control. Mechanical arms extended from the station, guiding their small vessel into a brightly lit bay where dozens of alien ships rested. "Docking complete, Commander," the pilot announced. "Arcturian representatives are waiting to receive us." Allison nodded. "Let's not keep them waiting." The Earth delegation, 12 humans in total, gathered at the airlock. Dr. Kelly fiddled with his translation device. Ambassador Johnson took a deep breath and nodded to Allison. "Open the door," she ordered. The airlock hissed and slid open, revealing a greeting party of tall reptilian figures waiting in perfect formation. Their scales shimmered with iridescent colors under the bright lights of the docking bay. At their head stood Grand Marshal Zekthar, his elaborate uniform adorned with symbols of military rank. "Welcome to Arcturia Prime," Zekthar said, his words translated through their earpieces. "The High Chancellor awaits your presence." They were led through corridors of gleaming metal and strange crystal that seemed to glow from within. Smaller Arcturians stepped aside as they passed, their slitted eyes watching the humans with what Allison thought might be curiosity, or perhaps concern. The Grand Hall was enormous, with a ceiling that rose at least 100 feet above them. Thousands of Arcturians stood in tiered viewing platforms surrounding a central floor, where High Chancellor Vexnor waited on an elevated platform. His scales were pale, almost white, marked with the blue patterns of the ruling bloodline. "Approach, Earth beings," Vexnor commanded. Ambassador Johnson stepped forward and bowed deeply. "High Chancellor, we come with gratitude and hope for our future together, within your glorious empire." The High Chancellor's head tilted slightly. "Your journey marks the beginning of your species' advancement. Today you will undergo the ceremony of recognition, formally establishing your place among the protected worlds of the Arcturian Dominion." Allison noticed Dr. Kelly shifting uncomfortably beside her. "Something wrong?" she whispered. "Just nervous," he replied. "I've studied their ceremonial customs, but experiencing them firsthand is different." Arcturian attendants appeared with floating trays holding crystal goblets filled with shimmering blue liquid. "The essence of unity," Grand Marshal Zekthar explained. "A symbolic sharing of thought. It allows a temporary mental connection, a tradition dating back to the foundation of our empire." Ambassador Johnson accepted his goblet with appropriate reverence. The rest of the human delegation followed suit. Dr. Kelly hesitated briefly before taking his. "Drink as one," the High Chancellor instructed. The liquid tasted like mint and electricity. As Allison swallowed, a strange warmth spread from her throat to her head. Suddenly she felt a presence, alien and ancient, brushing against her mind. A gasp echoed through the Grand Hall. Allison opened her eyes to see every Arcturian staring at Dr. Kelly. The xenobiologist stood frozen, goblet empty in his hand, while High Chancellor Vexnor leaned forward, his reptilian features showing rare emotion. "Impossible," the Chancellor whispered. The mental presence withdrew immediately. Grand Marshal Zekthar stepped forward, his posture suddenly rigid. "The ceremony is complete," he announced abruptly. The Earth delegation will now be escorted to their quarters to rest before tomorrow's proceedings. Allison caught Dr. Kelly's arm as they were led away. What happened? She demanded quietly. Kelly looked confused. I don't know. I felt something trying to enter my mind, and I just pushed back. He rubbed his temple. It was instinctive. Meanwhile, in a private chamber far from the ceremonial hall, High Chancellor Vexnor and Grand Marshal Zekthar faced each other across a table of black stone. You felt it? Vexnor asked. Zekthar nodded grimly. Natural shielding. Not just resistance, active counterforce. The human didn't even realize what he was doing. Run the scans again, Vexnor ordered. All records of their species. A three-dimensional display appeared between them, showing human DNA sequences alongside brain activity patterns. Zekthar manipulated the display with a clawed hand. There, he said, pointing. We missed it during initial contact. These markers, they're dormant now, but they're identical to... Do not speak it, Vexnor hissed. Not even here. Zekthar lowered his voice. High Chancellor, if they are descendants of the Ancient Ones, then we have invited a plague into our empire. Vexnor turned away, his scales shifting color with stress. How many generations until awakening? Unknown, but the ceremonial probe may have accelerated the process. The High Chancellor was silent for a long moment. End the diplomatic mission. Send them home with appropriate honors and excuses. And then, prepare the containment fleet. If what we fear is true, Earth cannot be allowed to develop further. Vexnor's voice hardened. We must act before their true power enters the fight. Back in their assigned quarters, the Earth delegation gathered in Ambassador Johnson's room. They're cutting our visit short, Johnson announced, looking troubled. Apparently there are protocol concerns that require them to reschedule. That's diplomatic speak for get out, Allison said. Something spooked them during the ceremony. Dr. Kelly sat quietly in the corner, eyes closed in concentration. I keep feeling like I'm being watched, he finally said. Not physically, it's more like, he struggled to find the words, like someone standing just outside a door in my mind. Johnson sighed. Whatever happened, we're leaving tomorrow. Let's not create any more incidents. As the Pathfinder departed the next morning, Allison noticed the unusual number of Arcturian vessels suddenly preparing for departure as well. Through the viewport, she watched as the massive ships formed into what looked suspiciously like battle formations. Set course for Earth, she ordered the pilot, and send a message to command. Tell them. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Tell them we may have a situation. On the Arcturian command vessel, Grand Marshal Zekthar issued orders that would reach across the Empire. Surveillance on all human activities was to be increased immediately. The military assets nearest to the Sol system were to begin moving into position. The empire that had ruled 200 worlds for millennia was, quietly, efficiently preparing for war. And for the first time in 10,000 years they were afraid. 6 months after the diplomatic mission, Admiral Frank Donovan stood in Earth's Unified Defense Command Center, staring at the massive display screen with a grim expression. Dozens of red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving, in perfect formation. Confirmed, sir, said the sensor operator. 117 Arcturian vessels just entered the Kuiper Belt. They're not responding to hails. Admiral Donovan's jaw tightened. Sound the alarm. All defense forces to battle stations. Lieutenant Olivia Cruz, the tactical officer, studied the incoming formation with unusual focus. Something about their approach pattern bothered her, though she couldn't explain why. The Arcturian ships were arranged in a strange, almost ritualistic pattern rather than a standard attack formation. They're being careful, she murmured, almost like they're afraid of getting too close to each other. What was that, Lieutenant? Donovan asked. Nothing conclusive, sir, just an observation. Alarms blared throughout the command center as the situation escalated from potential threat to confirmed invasion. Secretary General Catherine Wells rushed in, her face pale but composed. Admiral, what are our options? She asked directly. Donovan gestured to the display. We have 43 combat-ready vessels, most of them retrofitted transport ships. Our only purpose-built warships are the 7 destroyers we completed last month. He didn't need to explain what that meant against 1 to 17 advanced alien warships. Secretary General Wells nodded. Broadcast on all channels. One last attempt at peace. She stepped up to the communication station, straightened her jacket, and took a deep breath. This is Secretary General Catherine Wells of the United Earth Government. Arcturian Fleet, we detect your approach and seek peaceful communication. If misunderstandings have occurred, we wish to resolve them through dialogue. Please respond. Only silence answered. 20 minutes later, the first Arcturian strike hit the research outpost on Pluto. Then the mining colony on Neptune's moon Triton went dark. Within hours, the Mars colony sent desperate distress calls before their communications were cut off. The battle for Earth had begun. On the bridge of the human destroyer Defiant, Lieutenant Cruz watched as Captain Rogers directed their small vessel through the debris field that had once been Earth's orbital defense platforms. Arcturian, cruiser at 2 o'clock, called the sensor officer. They're charging weapons. Evasive maneuvers, ordered the captain. Return fire when ready. The Defiant shuddered as it banked hard to starboard, narrowly avoiding the enemy's energy beam. Cruz noticed something strange as they came about for a counterattack. Captain, they're keeping unusual distance, she said. Even when they have clear firing solutions, they're staying at least 10,000 kilometers from any human vessel. They outrange us, the captain replied. Why would they need to get closer? Cruz shook her head. It's not tactical. Look at their formation when they engaged the Valiant. She pointed to the tactical display. They had her surrounded but maintained this perfect bubble of space. It's like they're afraid of something. Before the captain could respond, a blinding flash illuminated the viewport as the Defiant's sister ship exploded nearby. Their own ship rocked violently as debris struck the hull. We're hit. Engineering reports hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Seal all compartments, the captain ordered. Prepare for possible boarding. The prediction proved accurate. Minutes later, armored Arcturians breached the damaged sections of the ship. Lieutenant Cruz led a defense team to contain the boarding party. As they exchanged fire in the narrow corridor, she noticed something odd about the alien soldiers. Their helmets were different from those she'd seen in briefings, bulkier, with strange devices attached. And they moved strangely, keeping distance, not just from the humans but from each other as well. When one of her team managed to wound an Arcturian, the others reacted with alarm, dragging their injured comrade back rather than pressing the attack. They seemed more concerned with retrieving their wounded than capturing the ship. Eventually, the Defiant was overwhelmed. The surviving crew, including Lieutenant Cruz, were disarmed and herded into the cargo bay. The Arcturian soldiers established a perimeter, keeping their distance from the prisoners. Cruz watched them carefully. They won't come within 2 meters of us, she whispered to a fellow officer. And look at their helmets. Some kind of tech I've never seen before. In another part of the solar system, Chief Science Officer Mason Garcia worked frantically in the hidden laboratory beneath Europa's ice. The facility, built in secret after the diplomatic mission, had so far escaped the Arcturians' notice. Examined the device in front of him, salvaged from an Arcturian scout ship disabled during the initial attack. It was unlike any technology he'd seen before, seemingly designed specifically to generate some sort of dampening field. This isn't a weapon, he told his team. At least not in the conventional sense. It's generating a field that seems designed to suppress something. Dr. Garcia consulted the readings again. If I'm right, this is designed to contain or suppress mental energy, like they're afraid of our thoughts somehow. One of his assistants looked up from her work. You mean like telepathy? Humans don't have that ability. Maybe they think we do, Garcia replied. Or maybe we have something they perceive as similar. Back at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Donovan watched as the situation deteriorated. Half the fleet was gone. The moon bases had all gone silent. Arcturian ships now formed a perfect sphere around Earth. But strangely, they weren't bombarding the planet as expected. Instead, They were deploying some kind of energy field around major population centers. Satellites showed strange devices, being placed in precise locations around cities. They're containing us, Donovan realized, not exterminating. Secretary General Wells looked at him sharply. That's good news, isn't it? I'm not sure, he replied honestly. Why would they go to all this trouble to attack us only to set up what looks like a quarantine? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Nathan Kelly, the xenobiologist, from the diplomatic mission, was brought into the command center under guard. Since returning from Arcturia Prime, he had been experiencing severe headaches and strange dreams. Now his eyes were bloodshot and he looked exhausted. They're afraid, Kelly said without preamble. I can feel it. Sometimes I can hear them in my head. They're terrified of something they call the awakening. Everyone stared at him. What are you talking about, Doctor? Wells asked carefully. I don't understand it myself, Kelly admitted. But ever since that ceremony, I've been experiencing changes, impressions. Sometimes I know things I shouldn't possibly know. Admiral Donovan studied him for a moment. What are they afraid of specifically? Kelly met his gaze. Us, humanity, but not what we are now, what we might become. He pressed his hand to his temple, wincing. They keep thinking about something, called dormant potential. They invaded not because they want our planet, but because they're terrified of what will happen if they leave us alone. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral, a communications officer called out, breaking the tension. We've lost contact with the Pacific Fleet. The remaining captains are requesting orders. Donovan straightened his shoulders. Send to all remaining vessels. Implement Scatter Protocol Omega. Break into small groups, avoid engagement, and proceed to predetermined fallback points. He turned to face the massive display showing Earth surrounded by enemy ships. This battle may be lost, but the war isn't over. If the Arcturians are this afraid of what humanity might become, he left the sentence unfinished. Whatever power the aliens feared, whatever human potential had caused an empire controlling 200 worlds to, panic hadn't even entered the fight yet. 3 months into the occupation, Dr. Elizabeth Foster crouched in her hidden laboratory deep within the Rocky Mountains. The facility had been a former military bunker, now repurposed to study the strange phenomena occurring across the globe. She adjusted her glasses and studied the brain scan on her computer screen. This is the 5th case this week, she told her assistant. The patterns are identical. Increased activity in areas of the brain we previously thought were non-functional. On the examination table, a young woman lay still while the scanner hummed above her head. She had been brought in after reporting severe headaches followed by the ability to hear other people's thoughts. Any common factors between the cases? The assistant asked. Dr. Foster nodded. All started experiencing symptoms after periods of extreme stress. And the younger the subject, the stronger the manifestation. Her tablet beeped with an incoming message. Another case had been discovered, this time a 16-year-old boy named Ryan Cole. According to the report, he had accidentally moved a car without touching it while being pursued by an Arcturian patrol. We need to bring him in, Dr. Foster said. If he's already manifesting telekinesis, he could be the strongest subject yet. 50 miles away, Major Paul Blackwood led his resistance cell through the sewers beneath Central City. The group moved silently, weapons ready. Above them, Arcturian patrols monitored the containment field surrounding the city. Status report, Blackwood whispered into his radio. All teams in position, came the reply. The Arcturian command post is lightly guarded. They still don't expect humans to penetrate their security systems. What the aliens didn't know was that the resistance had discovered their technology responded strangely to certain human brainwave patterns. With proper concentration, some humans could cause temporary malfunctions in Arcturian devices. Begin operation in 3 minutes, Blackwood ordered. The raid was quick and surprisingly successful. The Arcturians were caught off guard, and the resistance fighters captured an intact communication device. As they retreated through the sewers, Blackwood examined their prize with satisfaction. This could tell us what they're planning next, he said. If we can decode it, Back at their hidden base, a resistance technician worked on the captured device. After hours of effort, he managed to access some of its contents. "It's a report to their high command," he told Blackwood, "sent by someone named Governor Maltech." The translated message appeared on the screen. "Urgent. The containment fields are proving less effective than predicted. Human psionic awakening accelerating at 300% above models. Multiple Class 3 manifestations recorded. Request immediate deployment of additional Psi-Null units. The dormancy period is ending decades ahead of schedule. Recommend implementation of Protocol Midnight." Major Blackwood read the message twice. Psionic awakening? What does that mean? Psionic refers to mental powers, the technician explained. Telepathy, telekinesis, things humans aren't supposed to be able to do. Until now, Blackwood said quietly. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the city, Ryan Cole huddled in an abandoned warehouse with 3 other teenagers. They had banded together after discovering their shared abilities. Ryan could move objects with his mind. Lily could feel other people's emotions. Sam could create small illusions, and Zoe could heal minor injuries. "It's getting stronger," Ryan said, levitating a baseball in front of him. "At first, I could barely lift a coin. Now this feels easy." "I heard voices last night," Lily admitted. "Not just feelings anymore. Actual thoughts from people far away." "I think we're all changing," Sam said. "My dad used to tell stories about people with special abilities in old times. Prophets, mystics, people who could do impossible things. Everyone thought they were just myths." Zoe looked nervous. "The aliens know about this. That's why they invaded, isn't it? They knew this would happen to us." Ryan nodded slowly. "And they're scared of what we might become." On the Arcturian homeworld, High Chancellor Vexenor faced his council with grim news. The holographic displays showed increasing incidents of human psionic activity across Earth. "The containment is failing," he stated flatly. "Governor Maltech reports new manifestations daily." "How is this possible?" one council member demanded. "Our models predicted the dormancy would last for at least another century." "Perhaps the pressure of invasion accelerated the process," another suggested. "Stress can trigger evolutionary responses." Grand Marshal Zekthar stepped forward. "Whatever the cause, we must act decisively. I propose deployment of the mind-killer weapons." A shocked silence fell over the council chamber. "Those have not been used in 5,000 years. The High Chancellor said quietly. "The side effects would be preferable to what will happen if the humans fully awaken," Zekthar insisted. Vexenor hesitated, then made a small gesture. "There is one who might provide insight. Historian Vriltok has studied the Ancient Ones more thoroughly than any living Arcturian." Hours later, an elderly Arcturian with faded scales was brought before the council. Historian Vriltok moved slowly, leaning on a staff. His eyes, however, were sharp and alert. "You summon me after centuries of ignoring my warnings," he said without preamble. "Now you fear the truth I have long spoken." "The humans," Vexenor said. "Tell us what you know." Vriltok's laugh was dry and bitter. "What I know. I know that the glorious Arcturian Empire is built on lies. I know that 10,000 years ago, we were not the masters, but the servants." The council members shifted uncomfortably as the old historian continued. "The Ancient Ones, the progenitors, were a humanoid species with mental powers beyond our comprehension. They did not need technology as we understand it. Their thoughts shaped reality. We Arcturians were their workers, their soldiers." He paused. "Until the Great Betrayal, when our ancestors used stolen technology to shield their minds and overthrow their masters. The progenitors disappeared," Vriltok continued. "Not defeated as our histories claim, but simply gone. And we built our empire on their abandoned technology we have never fully understood." "What does this have to do with humans?" Zekthar demanded. The old historian fixed him with a steady gaze. "Everything. I have analyzed the genetic samples from Earth. Humans bear markers identical to the progenitors. Earth is not just another world, It may be the lost homeworld of our ancient masters. Shocked silence filled the chamber. Impossible. Someone finally whispered. Is it? Vriltok asked. For millennia, we have sought worlds with similar conditions to the lost progenitor homeworld. We have eliminated or contained any species showing psionic potential. Why? Because deep in our genetic memory, we fear their return. High Chancellor Vex Nor leaned forward. Are you suggesting that humans are progenitors? I am suggesting they are descendants, with abilities that have been dormant for thousands of years. The stress of our invasion is awakening what has long slept. The historian's voice grew solemn. The containment fields you've placed around their cities aren't protecting you from them. They're delaying their awakening. And they are failing. Kibakam, on Earth in Dr. Foster's laboratory, Ryan Cole sat perfectly still as the brain scanner hummed around him. The readings were off the charts. His psionic potential is unlike anything we've measured, Dr. Foster whispered to her team. And he's not alone. We're detecting similar patterns emerging worldwide, especially in younger subjects. Ryan opened his eyes. I can feel them, he said quietly. Other minds like mine, reaching out, connecting. Who? Dr. Foster asked. Everyone, Ryan replied simply. And the Arcturians know it's happening. They're terrified. He looked at the scientist with eyes that seemed somehow older than his years. Something big is coming, Dr. Foster. Something none of us, not humans, not Arcturians, are prepared for. Throughout the occupied Earth, Arcturian systems began experiencing unexplained malfunctions. The containment fields flickered, communication networks suffered interference, and in the minds of countless humans, something ancient was beginning to stir. 1 year into the occupation, the human resistance had grown from scattered groups into a global network. General Laura Hayes, once a military strategist for the United States Army, now coordinated operations from a hidden command center in the Appalachian Mountains. Maps covered the walls, marking Arcturian positions and human strongholds. The situation has changed, she told her officers. 3 months ago, we could barely touch their outposts. Now we're taking down command centers. The reason for this shift was becoming clear. The growing psychic network connecting humans across the planet. People with awakened abilities could sense Arcturian movements, temporarily disable their technology, and communicate instantly across vast distances. Our latest intelligence suggests the Arcturians are bringing in specialized troops. General, Hayes continued. They call them the Psi-Null Legion, soldiers specifically engineered to be invisible to psychic detection. Her communication officer raised a hand. General, we're receiving reports of Arcturian dropships landing near Chicago. They're rounding up children. Hayes's face hardened. They're targeting the youngest minds, the ones with the strongest potential. In a classroom beneath the ruins of Chicago, Sofia Rodriguez watched over 20 children ranging from 8 to 15 years old. Once a middle school teacher, she now ran a hidden school for children displaying psychic abilities. Remember to control your breathing, she instructed as the children practiced. Your emotions affect your abilities. A 10-year-old girl named Mia raised her hand. Ms. Rodriguez, I had the dream again last night, about the shining people. Several other children nodded. Many had reported similar dreams, visions of tall, luminous beings with incredible mental powers. I think they're trying to tell us something, Mia continued, like they're our family from long ago. Before Sophia could respond, one of the older students burst into the room. Arcturians, 6 blocks away and coming this way. Sophia immediately switched to their practiced evacuation plan. Everyone grab your emergency packs, buddy system, no noise. She led the children through a hidden passage into the old subway tunnels beneath the city. These abandoned tunnels had become highways for the resistance, allowing movement beneath Arcturian patrols. As they hurried through the darkness, 12-year-old Kevin suddenly stopped. They know we're here, he whispered, his eyes unfocused. I can feel them searching. Sophia had learned to trust the children's perceptions. Change of plan, this way. They turned down a narrower tunnel but soon heard the heavy footsteps of Arcturian soldiers behind them. The Psi-Null troops were closing in. "Dead end ahead," one of the older children warned. They were trapped. Sophia pushed the children behind her as the first Arcturian appeared, its special helmet concealing its features. "Stay back," she warned, raising an old pistol. The Arcturian lifted its weapon. Then Kevin stepped forward, his small face determined. Around him, the other children formed a circle, joining hands. "What are you doing?" Sophia asked, alarmed. "What the dreams showed us," Kevin replied simply. The children closed their eyes in unison. A strange pressure filled the tunnel, making Sophia's ears pop. The Arcturian soldiers froze in place as their weapons and helmets sparked and failed. Then, as one, they collapsed unconscious to the ground. Sophia stared in shock. "What did you just do?" "We pushed back together," Mia explained, as if it were obvious. "One mind is strong. Many minds together are stronger." Miles away in a secret laboratory, Dr. Aaron Mitchell worked frantically on his latest prototype. The physicist had been studying Arcturian technology since the invasion began, focusing on their containment field generators. "The field doesn't just block psychic energy," he explained to his team. "It actively suppresses it. But if we reverse the polarity..." His assistant looked skeptical. "You're suggesting we turn their suppressors into amplifiers?" "Exactly," Mitchell nodded. "Their greatest weapon against us could become our greatest advantage." The door to the lab burst open as an intelligence officer named Jason Berg rushed in. "You need to see this," he said, dropping a metal box on the table. "What is it?" Mitchell asked. "Artifacts from an Arcturian research base. They've been studying human history, the real history, not what we thought we knew." Berg opened the box to reveal ancient stone tablets covered in unfamiliar symbols, alongside modern Arcturian data devices. According to their records, human civilization is far older than we believed. There were advanced human societies over 50,000 years ago, using technology based on mental energy rather than physical principles. He activated one of the devices, projecting images of ancient structures that predated known history. "The Arcturians have systematically hidden this from us, removing evidence from archaeological sites, altering historical records. They've been suppressing our knowledge of our own past." Dr. Mitchell studied the projections with growing excitement. "This explains why their technology responds to human brainwaves. It was originally designed by human minds." At the Arcturian Command Headquarters in what was once Geneva, Supreme Commander Dexcar reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The elite Psi-Null Legion he had brought to Earth was encountering increasing resistance. "Another squad, lost in Chicago," his aide reported, "and the containment field around Seoul has completely failed." Dexcar's scales darkened with anger. "How is this happening? The Psi-Nulls should be immune to their mental tricks." "Sir, we're detecting a new phenomenon. The humans aren't just developing individual abilities, they're forming psychic networks. When they combine their abilities, they can overpower even our strongest safeguards." The commander slammed his fist on the table. "We need the mind-killer weapons. Send the request to the Emperor immediately." "Sir, those weapons haven't been tested on this scale. The collateral damage is acceptable," Dexcar interrupted. "If the humans fully awaken, we lose everything." That evening, across the occupied planet, something unprecedented occurred. Humans with awakened abilities, whether in resistance, cells, or Arcturian captivity, experienced the same dream simultaneously. They saw the ancient civilization of the progenitors, their ancestors, and understood fragments of their forgotten history. The most gifted among them, like Ryan Cole, awoke with new knowledge. In Dr. Foster's mountain laboratory, he opened his eyes with a gasp. "I know what they did," he said. "The progenitors, our ancestors. They didn't lose a war. They chose to go dormant." Dr. Foster leaned forward. "Why would they do that?" "Something was hunting them. Something that targeted species with advanced psychic abilities. So they fragmented their consciousness, spread it across countless generations, hiding their power until it was safe to return. Ryan's eyes were wide with realization. We weren't meant to be separate individuals. We were meant to be one collective mind like they were. Outside the laboratory windows, the night sky suddenly brightened as dozens of massive Arcturian ships descended through the atmosphere. The largest invasion force yet had arrived. "They know what's happening," Ryan said quietly. "They can feel us waking up." General Hayes received reports of the new ships from resistance cells worldwide. This was the moment they had feared, a full-scale extermination force rather than an occupation. Yet strangely, she felt a new confidence spreading through the resistance network. All across the globe, humans with awakened abilities were connecting, sharing knowledge and strength. The psychic network was growing stronger by the hour. "Send the message to all cells," she ordered. "It's time for the global uprising. We move at dawn." As the sun rose the next day, the Arcturian containment fields around major cities began failing simultaneously. Human resistance fighters, their actions coordinated with impossible precision through the growing psychic network, struck at key enemy positions. Supreme Commander Dexkar watched in horror as his control screens went dark one by one. "What is happening?" he demanded. His aide's voice trembled. "It's everywhere, sir. They're all awakening at once." 2 years after the invasion began, Earth had changed beyond recognition. The Arcturian occupation forces had been pushed back to a few heavily fortified strongholds. Humanity had reclaimed most of their planet, but the war was far from over. President Samantha Carter stood at the window of the rebuilt White House, watching the strange new aircraft patrolling the skies. These vessels were unlike anything humans had built before the invasion. Sleek, silent ships powered by a combination of technology and psychic energy. "Remarkable how quickly we've advanced," said Professor Daniel Wright, who stood beside her. The historian had spent the past year uncovering humanity's true past from ancient sites and captured Arcturian records. "Not advancement," Carter replied. "Remembering. According to your research, we had all this knowledge before." Wright nodded. "The progenitors, our ancestors, possessed technology far beyond even what the Arcturians have now. But it wasn't technology as we understand it. Their machines responded to thought, were partly living, partly mechanical." A young aide entered the room. "Madam President, Admiral Peterson's fleet has engaged the Arcturian blockade in orbit, and Alex Morgan has arrived for the briefing." Alex. Morgan had been an ordinary office worker before the invasion. Now at 29, he was among the most powerful human psionics. His abilities had developed faster and stronger than almost anyone else's. He could communicate telepathically across vast distances and move objects weighing several tons with his mind. Morgan entered the Oval Office with a respectful nod. His eyes glowed faintly blue, a common trait among those with fully awakened abilities. "The Emperor has arrived," he said without preamble. "I felt his ship enter the solar system an hour ago. His mind is powerful, different from the others." President Carter straightened her jacket. "Then it's time. Are our people in position?" "Yes. The network is at full strength." What Morgan called the network was humanity's greatest achievement since the awakening began. A vast psychic web connecting millions of minds. Through it, humans could share thoughts, memories, and skills instantly. Someone who had never flown an aircraft could suddenly do so, drawing on the experience of trained pilots within the network. In orbit above Earth, Admiral William Peterson commanded the newly created Space Defense Fleet from the Bridge of the Awakening, Earth's first true warship. Unlike the improvised vessels used during the initial invasion, this ship had been designed and built in the past year, incorporating both human innovation and recovered progenitor principles. "Arcturian fleet approaching," reported his tactical officer. "We're detecting over 200 vessels, including their flagship Dominion. It's at least 5 times larger than anything we've encountered before." Peterson showed no fear. The old rules of warfare no longer applied. His pilots didn't just operate their ships, they merged with them, their thoughts guiding weapons and shields with precision that no computer could match. "All vessels form up," he ordered. Remember your training. Connect to the network, but maintain your individual awareness. The human fleet moved with impossible coordination as the Arcturian armada approached. At its center was the massive Dominion, a planet-killer-class vessel carrying Emperor Zaxtor himself. In the command chamber of the Dominion, Emperor Zaxtor's scales shimmered with stress as he watched the human fleet's movements. For 10,000 years, the Arcturian Empire had dominated the galaxy. Now their future hung in the balance. "The mind-killer weapon is prepared, Your Majesty," reported his chief scientist. "Once deployed, it will sever all psychic connections within the solar system. The humans will be isolated, their powers fragmented. Deploy it immediately," ordered the Emperor, "and broadcast my message to Earth." On every communication device across the planet, the Emperor's scaled face appeared. His voice was deep and commanding. "People of Earth, I am Emperor Zaxtor of the Arcturian Empire. Your resistance has been noted for its courage, but it ends today. Surrender all psychically active individuals for processing or face extinction. You have 1 hour to comply." In the Oval Office, President Carter met with her advisors. "Options? We fight," said General Hayes simply. "The network gives us advantages they can't counter." Professor Wright looked troubled. "Their mind-killer weapon concerns me. If it can truly sever psychic connections, we could lose everything we've gained." Alex Morgan had been silent, his eyes closed in concentration. Now he opened them. "I need to address everyone in the network," he said. President Carter nodded. "Do it." Morgan sat cross-legged on the floor, his eyes glowing brighter. Throughout the planet, humans connected to the psychic network suddenly felt his presence in their minds. "The Arcturians have a weapon," his voice echoed in millions of thoughts. "But what they don't understand is that we are not just copying the progenitors. We are the progenitors reawakened. Their weapon is based on stolen technology, our technology. Together we can reclaim it." In orbit, the battle had begun. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, anticipating Arcturian maneuvers before they happened. Despite being outnumbered, they inflicted serious damage on the enemy fleet. Admiral Peterson watched as his pilots reported an impossible phenomenon. They could see through the Arcturian ships' hulls, perceiving weaknesses and command structures, as if they had complete schematics. "It's the network," his communications officer explained. "We're not just reading their transmissions, we're reading their minds." On the Dominion, Emperor Zaxtor received increasingly desperate reports. "They know our attack patterns before we execute them. 3 more cruisers lost, Your Majesty. The humans, they're inside our system somehow." The Emperor slammed his fist on his command throne. "Enough! Deploy the mind-killer weapon now." At the center of the massive flagship, a device of ancient design began to power up. Its purpose was simple but devastating: to sever all psychic connections across space-time within the solar system, fragmenting the human collective consciousness back into isolated individuals. As the weapon charged, Alex Morgan stood up in the Oval Office, his entire body now glowing with blue energy. "I can feel it," he said, his voice strangely doubled. "The weapon, it's progenitor technology. It responds to its true masters." President Carter watched in awe as Morgan's consciousness extended outward through the network, touching millions of minds. Together, they reached toward the ancient device aboard the Arcturian flagship. In the weapon chamber of the Dominion, the Arcturian scientists backed away in fear as the mind-killer device began to glow with the same blue light emanating from human psionics across Earth. The weapon recognized its creators. Emperor Zaxtor felt, for the first time in his long life, true terror. "What's happening?" he demanded. His chief scientist's voice trembled. "The weapon it's responding to them. It recognizes them as its rightful users." The mind-killer device pulsed once, twice, and then went dark. In that same moment, every piece of Arcturian technology in the solar system temporarily deactivated. In the silence that followed, a single voice entered the Emperor's mind. It was Morgan, speaking directly to him. Your empire was built on stolen legacy, Morgan said. We don't wish to destroy you, but we will not be enslaved. The progenitors, our ancestors, chose dormancy to avoid a greater threat to all sentient life. We need allies, not enemies, for what's coming. 2 days later, on the neutral ground of the lunar surface, President Samantha Carter and Emperor Zaxtor signed an unprecedented treaty. The Arcturian Empire would recognize Earth's independence and humanity's right to develop their abilities. In exchange, humans would share the rediscovered progenitor knowledge and help prepare for a threat only partly understood. As the two leaders sealed the agreement, Professor Wright approached Admiral Peterson with an ancient star chart recovered from an Arcturian database. These marks, Wright said, pointing to dozens of scattered worlds, are other seeded species, potential progenitor descendants like us. Some may be awakening already. Peterson nodded thoughtfully. Then our work is just beginning. Above them, Earth shone blue and green against the blackness of space. No longer just a world, but a beacon. Humanity's true power had finally entered the cosmic stage, and with it, the return of the progenitor's legacy to a universe that had long forgotten them.